I think they're going to oust her ASAP.
By special request, Nick the Greek. Well done, gallery.
We're fighting for Britain, and they spelt Britain wrong. and the reason why they spelt it wrong is because over 15 years, no one in the Tory party's cared about Britain, so no one's had to know how to spell it.
Joining me now is somebody who always tells it like it is. It is Nick Buckley, Nick the Greek. Where are you?
I'm sat in the rain on my balcony in Crete.
In Crete? In the rain?
In the rain.
You know what? There's something about that makes me feel quite good, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. You're just glad I'm not having a great time.
Well, basically, yes. Gore Vidal, the great comic writer, he said, every time I see my friends do well, something in me dies. So I don't have to feel that at the moment. How long are you away for?
A week. I've got another 2 days.
I actually shouldn't. I'm being a dog in a manger because I quite often go to Corfu because we're making a TV series there called Mr. Calamari. I'll tell you about that a little bit later on. Just for you, we've queued up the 2.5-minute trailer for it. Hopefully you'll find it amusing. And it's about a Brit who goes to the beautiful island of Corfu because he doesn't like Brexit, even though he campaigned for it. And he thinks he can run Corfu better than the locals. And he does. And that's basically the idea. I love Crete. I think it's a wonderful island. Which end are you in? Are you in the northwest Hanya end or the southeast?
Yeah, Hanya.
Yeah. You're too old for Heraklion, I think.
Absolutely. I'm in bed by 9 o'clock every night here.
What you do with your wife is none of my business. There we go. Oh, they've even done, by special request, Nick the Greek. Well done, gallery. Yeah, so you'll be Nick the Greek today. I just think it's a wonderful place and my favorite part of Greece. Well, actually, wasn't that fond of Corfu, but it's really grown on me because I know a lot of people there now, and I know the island well. But Crete, if I had to choose one island just to holiday, it would always be Crete. It'll still be warm. It'll be 25 Celsius, won't it?
I mean, we're getting showers every day, but in between the showers, we're getting beautiful sunshine. So I'm getting a bit of a tan. It's not horrendous. I can handle 3 times a day, a half-hour shower.
Is there thunder?
In the evenings, yeah. Real big electrical thunderstorms. But that's when I'm in bed.
I love those. Oh, no. You're just making the sparks fly. Big boy.
Yeah. It's called fiction.
Oh, too much information. Pulp Fiction. Anyway, so let's talk about some other sparks which are flying. As you may be aware, even though you're living your best life over there, the Tories are having their conference at the moment, and nothing seems to be going right for them at the moment. Poor Kemi Badenoch. I like her as a person. There she is. I think she's quite competent. Maybe not heavyweight enough for the job, but it seems whatever she says and does, she can't get the poll ratings up. What's going wrong?
I think their conference has probably been better than I expected. They're still irrelevant and they're talking about nothing really, but at least it's not been a disaster. I know they're getting defections of councillors and they can't even spell the word Britain. They spelt that incorrectly.
Did
in the chocolate they were giving everybody bars of chocolate with something like we're fighting for Britain, and they spelt Britain wrong. And the reason why they spelt it wrong is because over 15 years, no one in the Tory party's cared about Britain, so no one's had to know how to spell it.
It's an open goal. It's terrible that. I know that. I think it was the Archers, Jeffrey Archer and his wife, a former partner of mine, was invited to one of their Christmas parties, and they had these big sticks of rock which they gave out for Christmas, and a lot of people didn't like the rock, so they handed it over and wrapped it up and gave it to other people, not realizing that in the middle of it said Happy Christmas from Lord and Lady Archer. Anyway, another little blunder there, I'd say. So so they've got this problem. You're saying the conference is going quite well, but well, it might be a bit unfair because I know from my own experience, if you take a picture of the hall at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, you don't get many people. But that's not a good look. And
Yeah, no.
it does feel to me that all the air has come out of the Tory tire, and they're running on flats.
No, absolutely. I think the Tories have got two problems. The first problem is whoever was going to be the next leader was only ever going to be an interim leader to get them to a place where they could then find a better leader. She was always going to be a caretaker. Whoever took the job was going to be a caretaker and should have been someone who was willing to sacrifice themselves to get the Tory party over this hump. But she didn't want to be that person. She wanted to be the next prime minister, and it's carried on. The second problem they face is this. They have never apologised for 14 years of Tory rule. They've admitted they made mistakes, and we made some mistakes. Now I thought, no, you didn't make mistakes. You were appalling. You completely failed over 14 years. For them to be forgiven, they have to offer an extremely serious, grovelling apology. And until they do that, the only other option is to wait 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years until we've forgotten how bad they were. It's either one or the other.
Those are strong words, and you could argue that they have been apologising. I mean, that's an apology of a conference for a start. But I mean, as I've said before, there have been times when if the Lib Dems had that many people, they'd have been jumping for joy. But the Lib Dems haven't been in proper government for over a century. I don't consider Nick Clegg's catastrophic performance as Tory Prime Minister David Cameron's lapdog as being a proper go at government. But the reality here is she has tried to apologise. She went on about the climate rules and said that they were a big mistake. And actually, she used quite strong language. She said something about it being a catastrophic mistake, and that's a strong phrase. There it is. In fact, yeah, and she's actually more or less saying the exact opposite of one of her predecessors, Theresa May. Kemi Badenoch's climate pledge is catastrophic mistake. Oh, sorry, that's Theresa May damning Kemi Badenoch. But Badenoch pretty much said the same about her. So you got this little internecine dispute between Badenoch and Theresa May. Theresa May, who I, by the way, have quite a bit of warmth for. She's quite a nice person, not very clubbable. She doesn't set the world alight when she comes into her room, but she can hardly be forgiven for introducing the net zero target when she obviously knew pretty much nothing about climate. Because if you actually look at the science, it's impossible to believe that the minuscule contribution that the human race makes of CO2 to the atmosphere is driving the climate. But Badenoch has tried to roll back on this. Now, that hasn't exactly been an apology, but it's an admission of mistakes.
No, I get that. So a mistake is me giving you a coffee and putting sugar in it, and me going, "Oh, I'm sorry, Len, but you don't take sugar, do you?" That's a mistake. And you go, "Yeah, okay." An apology is, "Here's your coffee, Lembit. I put window cleaner in it." And then you go, "I want an apology for that. You made me drink window cleaner." So their mistakes are so huge. I want an apology. I physically want her on stage going, "We messed up over 14 years. We made your lives worse. We've contributed to the destruction of the country. And it was appalling. And some of the people who are involved in this will never stand for the Tory party again. And the ones who are pushing back now, we're letting you know that we made these mistakes and we're so sorry." I want a "we're so sorry," not "we made a mistake." I don't want that.
You want a groveling apology.
Yes.
You want them to humiliate themselves, to
Yes.
get down on their knees in front of MBE Buckley, Nick the Greek, and say, "Please forgive us."
I think it's the only way over the short term the public will forgive them when we see how sorry they really are. If not, like I said, they'll just have to wait. They'll have to wait so many years until we've forgotten how bad they were.
Well, that's what happened the last time. I got elected in 1997, and by 2001, the Tories still hadn't been forgiven. And 2005, they really hadn't been forgiven. But lo and behold, in 2010, everyone forgot about it and said, "Yeah, we'll have you again." And they had a limp victory. Didn't quite make it over the line, but luckily, Nick Clegg, the most incompetent party leader, in my opinion, the most incompetent party leader in the history of the Liberal Democrats, was there to fill up the space. A bit like the cheap stuff you put in inexpensive sausages. But
yeah, it's called offal.
Is it offal? Oh, actually, no. At least offal's got calorific value, and I'm quite partial to the flavour of it. I quite like faggots. I think they're made of offal as well. That's another story. Now back to the Badenoch situation. She's not apologising enough, you're saying. But I think what makes it even more interesting is that she's up against an absolutely... No, one more thing before we go into it, actually. The Tories also have exacerbated the problem, because it turns out some Tory councils are causing problems for people who are putting the flags up. Now, that seems a complete contradiction. What an own goal to say you can't put flags up. On another show, which will be out fairly soon, I was there in the gallery when it was being filmed. It turned out somebody had lost his job because a Tory council had discovered he was putting British flags up. I mean, that's a tremendous own goal. If that was in America with Star Spangled Banner, nobody would be saying anything. And I just can't understand it. It's bad enough for the Labour Party to apparently be shaming anyone who likes to have a flag of St. George or Union Jack up. But the Tories, I don't get how they've got to that mess.
And that just explains the Tories in government for 14 years and what they achieved and what they did. The Tories are filled with people who are not conservatives, who are liberals, who are woke, who are idiots, who are just on the gravy train. The only good thing to come out of the conference so far with Kemi was, I heard the rumour a month ago, and it was the Tories are going to announce at the conference that they're going to pull out of the ECHR, which was great news. But she's gone one step further, which is, she said, no politician, no future Tory politician will stand for them unless they agree on that principle, that we're going to pull out of the ECHR. What she's done with that statement is she's ignited the civil war now within the Tory party, and that's what needs to happen. She said to all of MPs, all the councillors, agree with this, and if you do, we know which position you're on. If you don't agree with it, you're not gonna get the vote to stand for us again. And in one move at the next election, or next series of elections, we will see less and less Liberal Tories being elected because they won't be allowed to stand. That's if they don't topple her before that. And I think she's going to be gone sooner rather than later. But
if she's saying something like that, which you like, I don't know if you've ever voted Tory, but I don't really care either. But if she's saying something like that, she's obviously taking on the reform threat head on. And it does sound to me as bold as what you were saying you wanted to hear.
Oh, yeah, it's extremely bold. It didn't surprise me, them leaving the ECHR, because I saw that coming, and they've got to do something to try to dampen down the reform vote. I get that. But for her to publicly announce, I'm starting a civil war, I mean, that takes guts. That takes her realising she's got one chance of not only saving her role, but probably maybe saving the Tory party. So that is a brave move. But I think the wets in her party will oust her for that.
If there are any wets left, for those who always wondered what a wet is, somebody who's middle of the road, that can happen in any party. But you don't have dries. You don't have dries, just wets. I always thought that's a bit strange. They're hardliners and wets. I wonder what the derivation of that is. Well, okay, we'll talk about the other parties in a minute and after the break, but do you think Kemi Badenoch will actually make it to May next year, the local elections?
No. I think she may have done. I think she may have done up to her starting the Civil War. And I think her MPs have now gone, we see the direction of travel. The longer she stays in post now, the more danger it's going to be for us. I think they're going to oust her ASAP. I think the next leader of the Tory party will be James Cleverly, and we'll get more of the wetness. And I think a couple of years of James Cleverly, the Tories will go, do you know what? It wasn't Kemi. It wasn't Kemi's fault we're still going down in the polls, because it's still happening under James. It must be our policies. And I think after James Cleverly then he's ousted, I think that'll be the soonest we'll get a hardcore Tory back in charge of the Tory party. So I think we're probably 2 years away from a Tory, but Kemi will be gone in the next few months, and I think James Cleverly will take over.
Yeah, James Kemp, gunning for him and his constituency. I know that Reform UK is really interested in James Cleverly's constituency. We'll come back to that in a minute. Let's go back to Greece. By the way, you should live in Greece, because this is the best quality picture I've ever seen. It's amazing. And you look happy. You look joyous. I wish I'd come on holiday with you, just the three of us. That would be normal.
It's the best picture you've seen, because I'm not being lit up by artificial light. I'm sat half in the balcony, half inside. And even though it's a bit cloudy, the natural sun is coming through and lighting me up. Half
man, half biscuit. No, that's something else. Sort of seems to fit in some illogical way. The story so far, this woman is not likely to, according to Nick Buckley, MBE, Nick the Greek, to be in job for much longer. But then who is going to replace her? Well, there's various speculations on that. But one of the strangest things is the paucity of options. I mean, who is the most unlikely person to have been promoted in British politics, do you think, Nick?
Recently?
Yeah. In any party?
Well, I mean, let's just look at Labour. I mean, all of them. Look at Lammy. Angela
I knew
Rayner.
you'd say that. I was gambling on you saying that. There he is. Look at him. David Lammy, the Deputy Prime Minister.
Yeah.
A man so inflexible. I don't know if you saw after that disgusting murder of two worshippers in Manchester, happened to be Jewish, but they could have been any religion in my view. And when there were some very angry people, probably of the Jewish faith, maybe they were just supporters of Zionism or Israel, I don't know, but they were heckling him in the audience. And he didn't have the mental agility to modify what he was saying to actually respond. He should have said, I understand people are very angry about our position on Palestine, but today it's not about that. It's about honoring the dead. So I will happily talk with you after this service, but can we please show respect now? Then it would have stopped, but he didn't have the agility to do it. Unbelievable. And despite the fact that David Lammy is so pathetic in terms of his performance, Badenoch still can't get any inroads.
Yeah, two things there. I'm not always sure that Lammy is as stupid as we like to think he is. There's also another reason why he didn't say what we thought he should have said, and that could be there's only 300,000 Jews in the UK. There's over 4 million Muslims, something like 4 million Muslims. So he knows where his voter base is. So he doesn't want to upset his voter base. Plus, he's also thinking in the back of his head, there's a small chance that I could be Prime Minister. So I better not upset party members who, a lot of them are, Muslims, far left. So being nice to Jews isn't a good thing if you want to move on up in the Labour Party. And Kemi gets no benefit out of any of this, because the Tory party at the moment has been replaced by Reform UK. So other times Tories have gone through rough patches and Labour have messed up. Tories have always benefited from that. At the moment, no matter what happens in any party, if they make a mistake, only Reform benefit from it. So I mean, Kemi's in a much harder place than any other leader from the Tory party who's been kicked out of office. Her job is a lot harder because of Reform UK. But on top of that, she still isn't doing a very good job.
No, she isn't, and it's hard to get away from that. As I say, I'm kind of fond of her in a way, almost in a paternal way, because she's trying so hard, and she comes across as so sincere when she's talking, and it just feels to me that she's just not able to make that breakthrough. I actually think she's very presentable. I think that if I saw her walking into an international meeting, I'd be 10 times more comfortable with her grace and her stature than some shuffling person like, well, certainly David Lammy, but also Keir Starmer. She's just got an eloquence and a clarity of thought that they don't have. But somehow she just can't make the running. Now, people say that her speech is all important. Now, once again, if you're watching this live, the speech will be on the day you're watching, but you can watch in our archive to compare what we're about to say with the reality. Is there something that she can do in terms of, well, convincing her faithful? Can words alone fix it for her?
To the faithful, it doesn't matter what she said. The faithful will still support her and still support the Tory party. We have the faithful in all parties, so that you won't change their minds. We've said this before, the conferences are not about external people, it's all about internal people. So her speech will be aimed at the people in the audience and hopefully Tory members. It's not for the general public, I don't think. I've not heard the speech yet, obviously. I don't see how she turns it around.
If you had heard it, you'd have had to write it, because at the time of broadcasting, we haven't heard it either. But go on. What should she say?
What should she say? Again, I'll go back to what I said before. She needs to be humble. She needs to get on that stage and she needs to admit to everybody the mess they caused, how they bought into woke ideology, how the EDI stuff all started under them, how the net
Tell us what EDI is.
EDI or DEI, diversity.
DEI, you mean DEI, right?
Yeah.
This is woke and
which is diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I would call it positive discrimination, and I've never supported that.
Yeah, so all that came under the Tories, the mass immigration. I used to vote Tory. I've not voted. I voted a Tory when in 2019 to get Brexit done. And before that, for a decade, I was always voting.
Well, that turned out well.
Well, it's stalled. We've left. All the benefits of Brexit are actually on a shelf, waiting for a strong prime minister to come along and take Brexit off the shelf and run with it. At the moment, it's only half been done. We've treated Northern Ireland appallingly through it. So we've had no benefits out of Brexit, but those benefits are waiting there for a strong prime minister. I just want some apologies off her, being humble, and then she needs to start laying out the policies. And even if they are a repeat of what Reform is saying, what she might do then is stop the bleeding of the Tory party into Reform. Because if you're thinking of leaving the Tories at the moment, why would you want to leave the Tories and go to Reform if the Tories have everything you want? We're going to end mass migration. We're leaving the ECHR. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. At the moment, nobody really knows what the Tories are for. We're just basing it on the last 15 years. And the last 15 years was awful.
The interesting thing about what you said there is this. Keith Prince, the defector from the Conservatives to Reform UK, he said, when I asked him, why don't you stay in the Conservatives? He said, well, why stay in the Tories if that's just Reform light? I can go and vote for Reform because they've got the policies and the Conservatives can copy the policies, but that's Reform light. So I'll just vote for full fat Reform. And maybe that's one of the problems. As far as I can see, Nigel Farage is the de facto acting prime minister now because he's got everybody waving flags. at the Conservative and the Labour and the Lib Dem conferences, all clearly because of Nigel Farage. He's got them all worrying about how well they can stop the boats, even though the Tories and the Labour Party clearly have failed to stop the boats, and the Lib Dems don't even want to. They want to get rid of the border. It's like, you can't have two things there. You can't say that you're going to be tough on migration and then want to dissolve the border because they want us back in the European Union. And then we've got the Greens. I want to finish with the Greens in a minute. There doesn't seem to be an incentive to go to the Tories if it wasn't invented there.
Yeah, several things. The first thing is many of these Tory councillors are going over to Reform to keep their seats. Let's be perfectly honest about it. These councillors had the last 3-4 years to join Reform, when Reform had, many of the same policies they've got now, but they're joining now because they know who's going to win the next election and they know who's going to win their local seat. So they're jumping ship because they know the Tories are failing, and it's a great opportunity to keep their elected seats. So I wouldn't trust any of them, the ones who are jumping now. Tory light. Sorry, Reform light. So that's what the Tories have to be really careful of not becoming Reform light, because why would you want Reform light when you've got Reform sat there? The Tories have to come up with that. None of our parties at the moment have got a vision. Even the Reform don't have a vision. What's the vision for the country? Where are you taking us? Because people will put up with many years of hardship if they're being taken on a journey to a better tomorrow. So what is that journey for Reform? Thatcher spelt it out, in the early 80s when we went through so much pain. She was telling us where we were going to go. I'm not saying it was the right place or the wrong place, but she was telling us. Jeremy Corbyn is always telling us where he wants to take us, where he wants to take the country. But none of the politicians ever want to tell us. It's all about what looks good in the polls, what's going to get me votes. That's my policy for this week. The Tories need to go back to basics and spell out what they're for, because that's the question they never answer. What are they for? And I don't know.
Couple of thoughts there. Back to basics was, I think, John Major's line.
Yeah.
Didn't go too well because it was all about good old family values. And then all kinds of not very family values behavior was exposed.
Everybody was sleeping with each other.
Yeah, that's right. Edwina Curry used to complain about some Lib Dem for sleeping around. But you slept with John Major. Yeah. I've never judged her for it. Edwina's a good friend of mine. I just don't like the hints of double standards there. I've never judged people for their personal lives unless they preach about other people's personal lives. I didn't actually feel that strongly about Angela Rayner buying a property on the South Coast. It didn't really affect me. The only reason I think she tumbled so hard was because she'd preached to other people about exactly the same thing. All I ask for is some degree of humility if you're prone to the same human mistakes as everybody else. But that's a whole different story. What you've said about Kemi Badenoch is very interesting. What you've just said there is interesting too. I wonder, though, if it's just too late because they're running to catch up with Reform. And here's where I slightly maybe disagree with you. I know that Nigel Farage was planning to do other things, live his best life. And he got dragged back into being leader. He didn't really want to do it. And so I feel that makes him a bit more liberated. He'll probably be the next prime minister, but it wasn't what he was planning to do. And he's not absolutely obsessed with it the way people like Starmer and Boris were. Now, the advantage from that is he can sort of take it or leave it, but he has to do it now. He's under obligation to the party. And so when he says, I'm going to stop the votes, I believe him. I think the civil service will do everything in their power to stop him from doing it. But nevertheless, I think he'll try and do that. I'm sure he'll junk the net zero nonsense. I wish he'd simply say there is no climate crisis, because there isn't. And I really want him to say that. I bet you he'll get the third runway built at Heathrow Airport. So all of these things, I think he actually believes. My worry is detail. Do you think they've got the detail right yet? They've still got 4 years to sort it out, though, Nick.
I don't think they've got 4 years. I think the election will be a lot sooner than that. Something will force a general election. Reform are going to do some good stuff, absolutely. But let's be honest, they couldn't be any worse than Tories and Labour. So just by setting the bar that low, Reform are going to do some good stuff. They are going to stop the boats. I could stop the boats in 48 hours if I was Prime Minister. I could stop the boats. So that's an easy one. Net zero, they're going to cancel most of net zero. Fantastic. And they're going to do some good stuff. But again, they haven't got a vision. All they have is some policies that they know the public care about. There's also some danger with Reform as well, because it's a one-man party. It's the Nigel Farage party, and that's not a criticism. He's a hell of a politician, but it is the Nigel Farage show. If he dies, if he goes, if he's had enough, he leaves, Reform could collapse overnight. There's a possibility of that. I quite agree with you. I don't think he really wanted to be Prime Minister or get back into politics. He stayed in it because it's on offer now, and who doesn't want to be Prime Minister? Of course he does now. Will he work his socks off? Will he sacrifice himself for the country? And they're the questions we never know about any politician. And mostly the answer is always no. I've got a funny feeling Reform's going to do some good stuff. But overall, in power, I think Reform are going to be a letdown. I think many people will have buyer's regret at the end of a Reform term, because they will do some good stuff, but they will not go anywhere near as far enough that most people who vote for them want them to go.
We could always demand more from politicians. I'm a bit more optimistic. As long as Reform professionalizes internally and really sharpens their policy position, so they explain exactly what their policy is towards Heathrow and Gatwick, to take one example I'm personally interested in, then they'll do all right. They are being taken quite seriously. I noticed that the Heathrow lobby actually spent money on a big stand. It was more than a stand. It was like a lounge at the Reform UK conference. So they are being taken seriously. They just have to take the details seriously, I think. But okay, we're not going to fix all that now. There is one other party that's recently had a conference, and I'll put this in to some extent as a comic relief. It's the Green Party. Zach Polanski has said, "We welcome migrants." When he gets to be Prime Minister, he's going to say, "Everybody, come on in, fill the island." He's also got this thickly sweet manner, which is just a matter of taste, but it doesn't work for me. This gushing middle class emotion, that's what it seems like to me. And he's got a deputy leader. Do you know about his deputy leader?
Yeah, the Asian guy. Yeah,
there he is. New Green Party leader under pressure to sack deputies defending October the 7th terrorists.
Yeah.
Mothin Ali suggested condemnation of Hamas attack on Israel was white supremacy. That's what he said. I'm not going to play the video. People might switch off. But then he said he's sorry for it. And this is my problem. And I use it about the Greens because people need to be reminded what the Greens are really like. This sort of odd, extremist pressure group campaigning against a non-existent climate crisis. But then they blunder into all of this other stuff too. This is my problem, Nick. Saying you're sorry for what you said is not the same as saying you realize it was wrong. It sounds to me, I'm sorry you found me out. That's what it sounds like to me.
Absolutely. Let me give you a prediction on the Greens, and we can archive this. We can come back a year or two from now. The Greens are going to go up in the polls. The Greens are going to look like they're going to break through and become a mainstream party in the UK. And then suddenly it's all going to collapse around them. And they're going to drop back down to 2-3%. And the reason this destruction is going to happen is because they've got in bed with the Islamists. They've got in bed with people who do not respect woke ideology, gender ideology, equal rights, all this nonsense. And Zach Polanski, first of all, that's not his real name. His real name is David Polden. He changed it by Depol.
Why?
So because he wanted to connect to his Jewish roots more or something like that. Who knows why? Maybe he thinks it's a better name. And you've
Can I
heard.
just tell you, for the avoidance of doubt, Lembedopik is my real name. But
Well, I knew that because no way in a million years anybody would pick it.
Racist. You know,
Hey,
by an amazing coincidence, my name is an almost exact anagram of the phrase "I like to be MP." It's incredible. Anyway, go on. It's my real name.
So I think the Islamists have joined Green to take over the party. They're a Trojan horse. They're going to see if they can take over the party. And when the civil war happens, it will collapse. There's no way you can have fundamental Islamists alongside gay people, trans people, women's rights. It's all going to implode.
Mm. So you don't reckon? We'll see.
And then you heard about the leader about I think it's a decade ago. He was a hypnotherapist or something, and he was hypnotizing women to make their boobs get bigger. Did you read that?
Yeah, I did. And this is the thing. This is a mistake he made there. He kind of denied it, but then apologized for it. I'm not going to apologize for something I haven't done. It's like, did you start the war in Ukraine? No, I didn't. I'm really sorry. It doesn't make any sense. Did you crash my car, son? No, I didn't. I'm really sorry about the bumper. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So he was hypnotizing women to expand their mammaries, basically.
Yes. And here's 100% fact. It didn't work. Because if it worked, he would be the richest man in the world we've ever heard of. If it worked.
Did you try?
Well, I think mine's down to overeating and drinking the size of my breasts.
Well, that's probably more expensive than going to Zach Polanski. What's his name? David what? Holden.
David Polden.
David Polden.
Yeah.
Zach Polanski. There was a chap at my university who was called Rory Arthur, which I think wasn't his original surname. But as a publicity stunt, he changed his name to Rory Borealis, which is pretty good. I think it's quite a good name. And he got to be president of the Students' Union.
And then coming back to the leader of the Greens, if you was going to change your name, there's many reasons why you might want to change his name. But if you want to change your name, would you change your surname to a famous American director paedophile?
I hadn't considered that. If I was hoping to be leader of the Greens, I might call myself something like Noble Green Man or something like that. Yeah. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, something like that. But anyway, it's up to me. It's worked. He's leader of his mighty party now, which has got more MPs than they've had before. But I just don't think that they're going to get much further. Though if you speak to people in Bristol, non-woke people hang their heads in shame. I went to Bristol University. It wasn't woke when I was there, but apparently things have changed. So back to where we started. Is this woman beyond redemption in terms of her own party? Once again, I'm not casting personal aspersions. We're going to ask her to come on and do a longer interview with us, actually, to give her a chance to explain herself. But is there anything she can do?
No. You would have to be a heavyweight to have taken on that role after such a defeat and turned the party around. You'd have to have been, you'd have gone down in history. You'd have been better and tougher than Thatcher to have done that. So whoever took that role was on a hiding to nothing. Their job would have been to save the party so the next leader has a chance of going up in the polls. But they're still going down. So she's failed in the job she was given, which is stop the bleeding, stabilize, and then take all the bad press, blame yourself, apologize, and then when we get rid of you, the next leader can come in and have a clean slate. That was the role of whoever took that job. But
there is one thing she could do based on what we've been discussing. It's obvious. She could change her name to Margaret Thatcher.
And I'll tell you what annoys me the most now in the Tory party is every single female Tory politician equates themselves to Thatcher, or has a picture of Thatcher in the background, or wears something Thatcher wears. And that just annoys me now. That just annoys me.
Yeah, well, Thatcher was a giant. And there was a time, I would say, when Margaret Thatcher was actually really huge influence in the world. Thatcher and Gorbachev and Reagan. That was almost the dream team. Whether you agreed with them or not, they made the world safe. I still think Thatcher wrecked the country, but that's a different story. But it was quite obvious the world was more secure when those three, in my opinion at least, were in charge. Had a little bit of that with Blair and Clinton, though Blair managed to spoil his copybook by Iraq. But now what have we got? Well, now maybe I've got some hope for Trump, but Biden, Starmer, and Putin, there's only one leader in those three, and it's not Biden or Starmer. They're laughing all the way to the bank, really. The developing countries now. Hey, thanks so much. What are you doing for the rest of the day?
It looks like the sun's going to break out now, so I'm going to go to the pool.
There's going to be sunshine after the rain.
Yes.
You can't sing it because then we'll be breaching copyright and breaching people's eardrums as well. Really great to see you. Thanks for the experiment. We discussed, I'll tell the viewers now, discussed the possibility of doing this. I can literally say that your signal, your picture is better than it is when you're in Blighty. Stay.
Good.
What's not to like? You can do 190 days at a time. Fun?
I was a bit worried that it'd break up, we'd lose connection. I was worried about that, but it's been perfect.
It's been solid as a rock. Another song, but there we go. And you can spend almost half of your time. You can spend just under 6 months a year, I think, if you do choose to stay in Crete. So we'll do all the shows when you're there. Hey, have a great time. Thank you very much. Very kind of Nick Buckley to interrupt his holiday to be with us.